What are you doing to help veterans to keep their homes and find jobs?
That's a really important
Okay.
question, because if you looked at the map of Connecticut and you looked at where we live in the eastern half of the state,
Right.
it actually has the highest number of veterans compared to any other congressional district in Connecticut. There are 5 congressional districts, and our district by far is number 1 in terms of concentration of veterans. And when you think about it, it's because we have a Navy base, in the district, 8,000 sailors, and a lot of people stay there after they leave the service. We owe them a lot because, they volunteer. They don't have to do it, and when they leave service, we should do everything we possibly can to help them find work. So last October, President Obama signed into law a law that makes it easier for companies to hire veterans. So, since that law went into effect, the number of out-of-work veterans has actually been coming down, which is a good thing, of course. But, we still need to do more to try and help them find work. Next week, actually, next Wednesday, our office is organized a job fair for veterans. And, we're obviously getting the word out to veterans in the area who are looking for work, that they're going to have an opportunity in one place to meet 17 different companies. Some of them are really big, like Electric Boat,
Right.
and some of them are smaller businesses. But it's a great question. It's an important question because we've asked a lot of these people.
What kind of work do you do as a congressman?
Well, part of my job is to go to Washington.
Okay.
We have work down there where you sit on committees.
Right.
I sit on the Armed Services Committee, which deals with military issues. I also sit on the Agriculture Committee, which deals with food security, nutrition issues, and farm issues. And we've got a lot of farms in our district.
Right.
And I also sit on the Ethics Committee, which is the committee that basically deals with complaints against congressmen who've done something bad. So it's kind of like being a judge. So part of your job, you go to committees, and then part of your job is you also vote on other bills, like that bill that I just described, the Veterans Hiring Credit. A lot of your work is back home in terms of helping people that you represent. We have about 700,000 people in our congressional district, and a lot of them have problems with the government, whether it's the veterans getting their benefits or Social Security issues, or helping towns with different grants that they're looking for. The city of Norwich, where we're in right now, we just got them a grant for $500,000 to hire 4 more police officers for their police department. And the nice thing about the grant is that they have to hire veterans. Okay, to go back to your first question, which the police department is actually very happy about that, because those are the kind of people they would like to hire, because it's actually a pretty transferable skill to be in the military and be a policeman or policewoman. So you work with a lot of those kinds of issues when you're back home.
Right.
The order, I'm sorry.
What are you doing to keep Louis' job?
Who's Louis?
Louis is from New York staff, from New York,
Yeah.
and he works at AB.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So do you know what kind of work he does there?
I think he does like inside a base.
Mm-hmm. So he's a shipbuilder, or is he one of the guys who does the design work, or?
Louis, he builds radiation shields on the submarine,
Yeah, so
he keeps the sailors safe.
Yeah. That's about as important a job as I can think of. I actually got a chance to ride on a submarine for 2 days, and they brought me back to the nuclear, power plant in the back of the ship there. So I'm glad Louis did good work, because when I left, they put a little isotope on your belt to measure whether you've been exposed to radiation. And I'm
Okay.
happy to say that when I got off the boat, it was 0. So
Louis did a good
he did a
job.
really good job. So, well, that's a great question, particularly for Groton, but also, frankly, for Connecticut and for the country, because Electric Boat is by far, the best shipyard in the world in terms of building submarines. But the good news is, in the last couple of years, we've been able to work on the Armed Services Committee, which I sit on, to boost the shipbuilding rate. So for about 17 years, our country was only building one submarine a year, and now we're up to two. Okay, and they also are starting design work on a whole new class of submarines. So the number of people at EB, which was hovering around 6,000 or 7,000, is now over 8,000. That's just in Groton alone. There's about 2,000 in Rhode Island. It's actually in the upswing. But I think Louis is in a really good place right now.
Okay.
Because I think, with the orders that the Navy's already put in for new ships, he's going to be a busy guy. And again, we're lucky to have him. This is an extraordinary group of people who work there at me too. So anyway, if you see Louis, tell him I said hi and thank you.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
He'll appreciate it.
Yeah. And that's great. He works at ARC too.
Yes.
Yes.
How are you hoping young people with diabetes in school?
With disabilities, intellectual disabilities in school? Okay, well, that's a great question because, right now, the federal government is getting a little more involved in education. If you go back about 10 years ago, the No Child Left Behind Act was passed, which started to put a lot more rules in place on testing students and setting sort of national requirements. We really need to kind of update that law big time, and hopefully the next Congress, we're going to change that law to make it smarter and work better. But in any case, for kids with intellectual disabilities, I mean, one of the issues we really need to look at, again, is trying to accommodate a whole series of issues, whether a rising number of kids with autism that we need to understand better and figure out better strategies to work on. But what we need to have is more flexibility in the federal law so that good teachers and good schools aren't sort of locked in to testing, as opposed to really trying to work with individual students.
Okay. Are you married?
I am. I in fact just celebrated my 23rd wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yeah. My wife Audrey is a pediatric nurse practitioner, and she works at St. Francis Hospital up in Hartford, and she's a pretty amazing person.
Wow.
Yeah. I have two kids. I have a son who just graduated from Georgetown University. He's a math major, which I'm in awe of. And I have a daughter. She's going into her last year of high school. Her name is Elizabeth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are you helping people keep jobs?
Well, as I said, next week we're going to do a jobs fair to help people find jobs, and this is actually the third jobs fair that we've done in just the last 2 or 3 months. People, they want to work, and they're kind of struggling out there. So we've got to stay focused on that. In my opinion, that's the most important issue right now, is just to get things growing again, so people can find a job. I mean, it's the most, a job is the best social program of all. It gives people, dignity. It gives them, the ability to support themselves and their families. So that's why I'm so impressed. You had the same job for 19 years.
Right.
That's great.
You is your idol in why?
So actually, there's quite a few people that I feel, that I really admire a lot. But, President Truman, Harry Truman, who was probably going to be the last president in American ever history that, didn't get a college degree. He actually made it to the White House without a college degree. He, was a veteran. He fought in World War I.
Right.
And he was a clothing store. He ran a clothing store in St. Louis, Missouri, and ended up getting involved in politics. And it's just an amazing story how he became president. Obviously, a very difficult time that he was president of the United States, but he ended discrimination, racial discrimination in the military. ahead of the civil rights movement. He was somebody who was for Medicare for seniors to help them with their health care issues. He was very strong in education, and he also was a short guy with not much hair and nearsighted, so I can relate to that. And but he was also a very plain. He was somebody who was very direct with people. He would answer their questions. He was not somebody who avoided difficult decisions, and I admire that. I frankly wish we had a little more of that in Washington today.
Right.
Yeah.
Ask you a Yankees or Red Sox fan?
That's a great question coming from Connecticut, because obviously we're halfway between Boston and New York, and that time I was on the submarine that I was telling you, I was
Right.
sitting at the breakfast table drinking coffee with all the sailors.
Right.
We were about 500 feet below the ice. We were up in the Arctic, and they asked me that question, are you a Red Sox fan or a Yankee fan? I'm sitting there thinking somebody's going to
Which is the
shoot me
right
out of a
answer.
torpedo tube if I gave them the wrong answer, but I'm a Red Sox fan through and through. Now, how about you? Are you a Red Sox fan or a Yankee fan?
I'm not saying nothing.
Whoa! Who's the politician here? You're good.